Yo, mop girl. You missed a spot. On your knees, where you belong.
The whole gym laughed. Tyler Grant, 4th degree black belt, king of Summit Edge Academy, pointing down at the black woman scrubbing his floor. Ursula didn't kneel. She stood up.
Clean it yourself.
Dead silence. Then, louder
She
laughter.
really said that?
Tyler grinned, stepped closer.
This dog doesn't even know what she's barking at.
He turned to the crowd.
Get on my mat, mop girl, just for fun. I'll let you swing first. Like a dog chasing its own tail.
Ursula pulled off her rubber gloves, dropped them on the floor.
Okay.
She stepped onto the mat barefoot, settled into a stance so natural, so automatic, that nobody even noticed. 30 phones hit record. What they captured next broke the internet and broke Tyler Grant. 6 months earlier. The 5:14 a.m. bus from East Atlanta smelled like wet metal and cheap coffee. Ursula Brooks sat in the back row, hood up, earbuds in, eyes half closed. She rode this bus 6 days a week. Same seat, same silence, same invisible. She got off 3 blocks from Summit Edge Academy, walked through the parking lot past a row of BMWs and lifted trucks she could never afford, and unlocked the side door with the key nobody else wanted, the janitor's key. Inside, the gym was still dark. She liked it that way. No students, no coaches, no Tyler Grant. Just the hum of the air conditioner and the faint smell of sweat that had soaked into the walls so deep, no amount of bleach could kill it. Ursula pulled the mop bucket from the supply closet and got to work. She mopped the training floor first, then the locker rooms, then the bathrooms, then the lobby. She wiped down every piece of equipment: heavy bags, speed bags, the cage walls, the ring ropes. She emptied trash cans full of tape and protein bar wrappers. She restocked paper towels. She scrubbed toilets on her hands and knees. By the time the first coach arrived at 7, the place looked brand new. Nobody ever thanked her. Nobody ever noticed. That was the point. Ursula Brooks had not always been a janitor. 3 years ago, she had been something else entirely. In Detroit, in the basements and warehouses south of 8 Mile, there was a circuit. No promoters, no commissions, no TV cameras. Just 2 fighters, a chalk circle on a concrete floor, and a crowd that paid cash at the door. The underground. Ursula fought her first underground bout at 23. She won in 90 seconds. A straight right hand that came from nowhere, fast, clean, surgical. The crowd didn't cheer. They just went quiet. That was when she got the name. The Ghost. Because you never saw her coming. Over the next 12 years, Ursula compiled a record that most professional fighters would kill for. 34 wins, 0 losses, 22 by knockout. She fought women who outweighed her by 30 pounds. She fought women with amateur boxing titles, with judo backgrounds, with Division I wrestling credentials. She beat them all. Not with power, with patience. Coach Raymond Ellis had taught her that. Raymond was 62, retired Army, built like a fire hydrant. He ran a small gym out of a church basement on Gratiot Avenue. No fancy equipment, just a heavy bag, a speed bag, some hand wraps, and a philosophy. You don't fight angry. You fight quiet. Let them come to you. Let them make mistakes. Then make them pay. Ursula lived in that gym. Raymond became her father, her coach, her corner, her conscience. He was the only person who ever believed in her before she gave them a reason to. On the night of her 34th win, a second-round TKO against a former Golden Gloves champion from Chicago, Raymond collapsed in the parking lot. Heart attack. Massive. He was dead before the ambulance arrived. Ursula held his hand on the asphalt while his body went cold. She never fought again. She left Detroit 3 weeks later. No goodbye. No forwarding address. She packed one bag, took a Greyhound south, and landed in Atlanta with $1,100 and a resume that said nothing about fighting. The job at Summit Edge paid $12 an hour. No benefits, no respect. But it was inside a gym. She could hear the pads pop. She could feel the canvas under her feet when she mopped. She could smell the sweat and the leather and the adrenaline. And that was enough. Most mornings, anyway. Some mornings, she stood in front of the heavy bag after everyone left and shadow-boxed for 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds. Her hands still moved like water. Jab, slip, cross, roll, hook. Fast, fluid, devastating. Muscle memory that 12 years of war had burned into her bones. Then she stopped, breathed, picked up the mop. Because Ursula Brooks wasn't a fighter anymore. She was a janitor. That was what she told herself. But there was a photo on her nightstand at home. An old man in a church basement, wrapping a young woman's hands. And next to it, a faded newspaper clipping with a headline that read, "The Ghost, Detroit's undefeated underground queen, 34-0. She kept it face down. Tyler Grant walked into Summit Edge Academy every morning like he owned the place. He didn't, but nobody would have known that from watching him. White BMW parked sideways across 2 spots. Designer gym bag slung over one shoulder. Oakley sunglasses pushed up on his forehead, even though it was 7 in the morning. He moved through the front door like the building had been waiting for him. 28 years old, 6'2". 210 pounds of lean muscle wrapped in a rash guard that cost more than Ursula made in a week. 4th-degree black belt in Taekwondo, 3-time Southeast Regional champion, undefeated in sanctioned competition, 14 wins, 0 losses. His highlight reel had 100,000 views on YouTube. His Instagram had twice that. Tyler Grant was talented. Everyone knew it. Especially Tyler Grant. He coached the advanced striking class every Tuesday and Thursday. He ran the competition team on weekends. He was the face of the academy, the guy they put on the website, the guy they sent to local news segments, the guy parents pointed at when their kids asked what a real fighter looked like. And he loved every second of it. His teaching style was simple. Watch me, then try to copy what I just did. He demonstrated techniques with the enthusiasm of a man performing for a crowd, because in his mind, he always was. Every spinning hook kick came with a look at the mirror. Every combination ended with a glance toward whoever was filming. The students worshipped him. They laughed at his jokes. They shared his TikToks. They bought the supplements he promoted. And when he barked an order, they jumped. Tyler liked that. He liked the hierarchy. Him at the top, everyone else below. And at the very bottom, invisible, silent, scrubbing, was the mop girl. He never called her by her name. He didn't know her name. "Hey, you! There's water on the mat. The bathroom's out of paper towels again. Handle it. Why does this place still smell? What do we even pay you for?" Ursula never responded. She just nodded and fixed whatever he pointed at. Tyler took that silence as confirmation of the natural order. She was beneath him. Not just on the payroll, in life. But Tyler Grant had a problem, and the problem had a name. Nathan Cross. Nathan was a talent scout for one of the biggest MMA management firms on the East Coast. He'd discovered 2 UFC champions, a Bellator title holder, and half a dozen ranked contenders, all pulled from small-town gyms and regional circuits that nobody else bothered to visit. Nathan didn't care about Instagram followers. He didn't care about highlight reels. He cared about one thing: what a fighter did when things went wrong. And Nathan was coming to Summit Edge. The academy owner, A quiet, balding man named Gregory Palmer had arranged the visit. Nathan would observe classes, watch sparring sessions, and evaluate whether anyone at Summit Edge had what it took to compete at the next level. Tyler saw this as his moment, his ticket out of regional obscurity and into the real show. He trained harder that week than he had in months. He adjusted his diet. He bought new gear. He rehearsed techniques in front of the mirror until they looked effortless. But underneath the confidence, there was something else, something Tyler never showed anyone. Fear, because Tyler Grant's 14-win record had an asterisk. Every one of those wins came against opponents he or his coaches had hand-picked, regional fighters with losing records, aging veterans past their prime, guys who looked dangerous on paper but crumbled under pressure. Tyler had never fought anyone who was actually better than him, and deep down, in the place he never let anyone see, he knew it. Nathan Cross would see through that in 5 minutes. So Tyler did what insecure men have done since the beginning of time. He performed. He postured. He controlled the room by making everyone in it feel smaller than him, especially the people who couldn't fight back. On Monday morning, Tyler walked past Ursula in the hallway. She was carrying a bucket of dirty water. He bumped her shoulder without stopping. The water sloshed over the rim and splashed down her uniform. He didn't look back. Ursula watched him walk away. Her grip on the bucket handle tightened until her knuckles went white. She said nothing, but her jaw set like concrete. Nathan Cross arrived on a Wednesday. No entourage, no announcement, just a man in a plain navy polo and khakis carrying a leather notebook and a pen. He shook Gregory Palmer's hand at the front desk, declined the coffee, and took a seat in the corner of the main training floor. He didn't introduce himself to anyone else. He just watched. Tyler noticed him within 30 seconds, changed his posture, squared his shoulders, threw a warm-up combination that was 3 levels above what any warm-up needed to be. Nathan didn't react. He wrote something in his notebook. Tyler's first class that morning was advanced striking. 8 students, all hungry, all watching Tyler like he held the keys to their futures. Tyler delivered. He ran them through spinning back kicks, jumping switch kicks, and a 3-part combination he called the Tyler Special, a name he had given it himself and repeated at least twice per class. He demonstrated each technique with maximum flair. Perfect form, sharp exhale on every strike, dramatic pause after each landing, letting the sound of impact hang in the air like applause he was giving himself. Nathan watched, wrote, said nothing. By the second class, Tyler was getting agitated. He couldn't read Nathan's face. The scout showed no excitement, no nods of approval, no raised eyebrows. Just the pen moving across the paper in short, deliberate strokes. So Tyler pushed harder. He called a senior student to the center of the mat for a live drill. The student, a 20-year-old blue belt named Colton, threw a hesitant jab. Tyler slipped it, countered with a full-power hook to the body, and swept Colton's legs out from under him. Colton hit the mat hard, gasping. Tyler stood over him, tapped his own chest, and looked toward Nathan. Nathan didn't look up from his notebook. Tyler's jaw clenched. During the break between classes, Tyler found a new target for his frustration. Ursula was on her hands and knees near the edge of the training floor, wiping down the base of the cage wall with a damp cloth. She was quiet, invisible as usual. Tyler walked over, stopped right next to her, close enough that his shadow fell across her hands. "You missed a spot." Ursula looked at the floor. It was spotless. "Right there." Tyler pointed at nothing. "See it?" Ursula didn't answer. "I said, do you see it?" Louder now. Loud enough for the students refilling their water bottles to turn around. Loud enough for Nathan Cross to stop writing. Ursula dipped her cloth in the bucket and wiped the area he'd pointed at. There was nothing there. They both knew it. Better, Tyler walked away without looking back. Nathan Cross saw the whole thing. He frowned, made a long note. That evening, after everyone had gone home, Ursula stood alone in the gym. The lights were off except for one strip above the heavy bag. She stared at it for a long time. Then she hit it. One jab, sharp. The bag barely moved, but the sound was different. Not the dull thud of a casual punch. It was a crack. Short, precise, loaded with something that had been compressed for 3 years. She threw a cross, then a hook, then a 3-piece combination that made the chains rattle against the ceiling mount. Her footwork was automatic. Lateral movement, pivot, angle change, reset. 12 years of muscle memory pouring out like a dam breaking. She threw for 30 seconds, maybe 40. The heavy bag swung wild, the chains screaming against the bolts. Then she stopped. Her breath came fast. Her hands were shaking, not from exhaustion, but from something deeper. Adrenaline, memory, grief. The ghost of Raymond Ellis standing behind her, whispering corrections she could still hear. Hands up, baby girl. Chin down. There you go. Ursula pressed her forehead against the bag, closed her eyes, felt the leather cool against her skin. She stood there for a full minute. Then she picked up her mop, turned off the light, and locked the door behind her. The bus stop was empty at 9:30 on a Wednesday night. Ursula sat on the bench, hood up, staring at the wet street. Her knuckles throbbed beneath her gloves. 3 blocks away, inside Summit Edge Academy, the heavy bag still swung. Barely. Just enough for the security camera to catch it. Nathan Cross would review that footage the next morning. And he would watch it 6 times. Friday evening. The gym was full. Gregory Palmer had organized an open exhibition, a showcase for current students, parents, and local martial arts community members. Food table by the entrance, folding chairs along the walls, a banner that read, Summit Edge Academy, Building Champions, hanging above the cage. Nathan Cross sat in the second row, leather notebook open, pen ready, face unreadable. Tyler had been waiting for this night all week. He opened the exhibition with a solo demonstration. Spinning heel kick, tornado kick, a flying knee that made the pads explode in his training partner's hands. The crowd erupted. Parents clapped, students whistled. Tyler soaked it in, arms spread wide, chin up, grinning at the ceiling like God had just called his name. Nathan wrote something down. His expression didn't change. Tyler moved to the sparring portion. He called out 2 intermediate students, one at a time. The first lasted 45 seconds before eating a body kick that folded him in half. The second tried to clinch and got swept so hard his back slapped the mat like a gunshot. Tyler stood in the center of the cage, breathing easy, sweat glistening under the lights. He looked at Nathan again. Nathan looked at his notebook. Tyler's smile cracked. Just a little. Just enough for the people paying attention to notice. He needed something bigger. Something that would make Nathan Cross look up from that damn notebook and see what everyone else already saw. That Tyler Grant was the real deal. He scanned the room. His eyes landed on the water cooler in the far corner. Ursula was there, refilling the jug, invisible, quiet, same as always. Tyler's grin came back, slower this time, meaner. Hey. Ursula didn't look up. Hey, mop girl. Yeah, you. The room shifted. Conversations died mid-sentence. Heads turned. Ursula looked up, said nothing. You've been watching us train for, what, 3 years now? Must have picked something up by now, right? Tyler walked toward her, arms open like he was inviting a friend. His voice carried across the gym. Come on, step on the mat. Let's see what you got. A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. Nervous laughter. The kind people make when they're not sure if something is a joke or something worse. Ursula shook her head. I'm good. Oh, come on. Tyler leaned against the cage, casual. Don't be shy. I'll go easy, promise. Just for fun. More laughter. Louder now. A student in the front row pulled out his phone and started recording. Tyler, leave her alone. Mrs. Dolores Wilson, the receptionist, spoke from behind the check-in desk. Her voice was sharp. Nobody listened. I'm not doing anything wrong. Tyler held up his hands, playing innocent. I'm just offering her a chance. Free lesson. Most people pay $200 a month for what I'm about to give her. He turned back to Ursula. What's the matter? Scared? He tilted his head, studied her like she was a stain on his mat. Come on, one round. Or is mopping the only thing your kind knows how to do? The laughter stopped. The gym went dead silent. A parent in the back shifted uncomfortably. A student looked at the floor. But nobody said anything. Nobody stood up. Nobody told Tyler to stop. Nathan Cross put down his pen. His eyes locked onto Tyler, then shifted to Ursula. He didn't blink. Ursula set the water jug down. Slowly. Her face was blank, unreadable. But her hands, her scarred, calloused fighter's hands, were absolutely still. No shaking, no trembling, just still. The kind of still that comes from a place most people have never been. One round? Ursula's voice was flat, calm. Tyler spread his arms. One round, just for fun. I'll even let you swing first. Okay. She stepped out from behind the water cooler, pulled off her rubber gloves, dropped them on the floor. The crowd murmured. Someone whispered, "This is messed up." Someone else whispered back, "She's gonna get killed." Ursula walked toward the mat. Her sneakers squeaked on the polished floor. She kicked them off at the edge, stepped onto the canvas, barefoot. And then something happened that only two people in the room noticed. She settled into a stance, feet shoulder-width apart, weight centered, hands loose at her sides, chin tucked, just barely. A southpaw position so subtle it looked like she was just standing there. Nathan Cross leaned forward in his chair. His notebook slid off his lap. He didn't pick it up. Gregory Palmer, sitting next to him, whispered, "Sorry about this. She's just the cleaning lady. It'll be over quick." Nathan didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on Ursula's feet, on the way she placed them, on the way her weight sat perfectly between her heels and the balls of her feet. He had seen that stance before, in a grainy video, on a security camera, at 2 a.m. Tyler bounced on his toes. Shadow punched the air, winked at the crowd. Ursula stood still, quiet, waiting. The ghost was awake. The gym hummed with a low, ugly energy. The kind that fills a room when people know they're about to watch something unfair and have already decided to enjoy it anyway. Folding chairs scraped against the floor as people shifted for a better view. Parents pulled their kids closer. Students pressed against the cage walls. Every phone in the room was pointed at the mat. Tyler Grant bounced in his corner. Loose, light on his feet, rolling his neck, shaking out his hands. He threw a quick combination at the air, jab, cross, hook, and the pads of his feet barely touched the canvas. He was fast. He was trained. He looked like exactly what he was, a 4th-degree black belt in peak condition. He was also smiling. The kind of smile that said this was already over. A student near the cage called out, 30 seconds, Tyler! New record! The crowd laughed. Tyler pointed at the kid and winked. On the other side of the mat, Ursula Brooks stood barefoot on the canvas. No warm-up, no bouncing, no shadow punches, just standing. Her arms hung at her sides, her eyes were half closed, Her breathing was slow, in through the nose, out through the mouth. If you didn't know better, you'd think she was about to fall asleep. But her feet told a different story. They were placed exactly shoulder-width apart. Left foot slightly forward, right heel barely lifted off the canvas. Weight balanced on the balls of both feet, like a scale set to 0. It was a stance that had been drilled 10,000 times until it became as natural as standing still. Most people in the room saw a tired cleaning lady waiting to get embarrassed. Nathan Cross saw something else entirely. He leaned toward Gregory Palmer. Who trained her? Palmer blinked. What? Nobody. She mops the floors. Nobody stands like that by accident. Palmer looked at Ursula, looked back at Nathan, shrugged. She's just the janitor, man. Nathan pulled out his phone, opened his browser, started typing. In Ursula's mind, the gym had disappeared. The crowd was gone. The laughter was gone. The fluorescent lights, the banner, the phones, the folding chairs, all of it, gone. She was back in the basement. Raymond's Gym, Gratiot Avenue, Detroit. The heavy bag swinging on a rusty chain, the concrete floor painted with a chalk circle, the smell of mildew and duct tape and old leather gloves that had been used by 100 fighters before her. Raymond stood across from her, arms folded, gray t-shirt, reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. What's the first thing you do when someone bigger than you steps in the ring? Wait. What's the second thing? Watch. And the third? Make them pay for every mistake. Raymond smiled, the kind of smile that meant she was ready. That's my girl. The memory dissolved. The gym came back. The noise came back. Tyler's voice cut through. Hey, mob girl, you still with us? Don't zone out on me now. I want you conscious for this. More laughter. Ursula opened her eyes. Something shifted. It was small, almost invisible. Her shoulders dropped half an inch. Her chin tucked a fraction. Her fingers, which had been loose and hanging, curled inward just slightly. Not into fists, just into readiness. 3 years of silence. 3 years of yes, sir, and sorry, sir, and scrubbing floors on our hands and knees. 3 years of swallowing every insult, every snap of the fingers, every time someone looked through her like she wasn't even there. It all gathered behind her eyes like a storm front building over flat land. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Mrs. Wilson gripped the edge of the reception desk. She had never seen Ursula look like that before. Tyler raised his guard. Classic Taekwondo stance, bladed, high, textbook. He looked sharp, polished, camera-ready. Ursula had no guard. Her hands stayed at her sides. Her weight sat low. She looked at Tyler the way a surgeon looks at an X-ray, not with anger, not with fear, with information. Gregory Palmer leaned over to Nathan and whispered, "This'll be quick." Nathan didn't respond. He was still looking at his phone, at a grainy photo he'd pulled from an archived article. A young black woman standing in a chalk circle, fists raised, surrounded by a roaring crowd. The headline read, "The Ghost of Gratiot, 34 fights, 34 wins, 0 mercy." Nathan looked up from the photo, looked at Ursula, looked back at the photo. His hands started shaking. Tyler attacked first. Of course he did. A roundhouse kick, his signature, fast, high, aimed at the temple. The kind of kick that had knocked out 14 opponents in sanctioned competition. The kind of kick he'd practiced 10,000 times until it was perfect. It hit nothing. Ursula moved her head 3 inches to the left. That was all. 3 inches. The kick whistled past her ear, close enough to move her hair. She didn't step back. She didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. The crowd went quiet. Not silent. Quiet. The kind of quiet that happens when something doesn't make sense yet. Tyler reset. Smiled. Threw it again. Same kick, other side. Faster this time. Ursula ducked. The kick sailed over her head. She came back up in the same position. Same stance. Same hands at her sides. She still hadn't thrown a punch. Tyler's smile tightened. He shifted into a combination. Jab, cross, spinning back kick. 3 techniques strung together at full speed, each one landing exactly where a training dummy would have been standing. Ursula wasn't a training dummy. She slipped the jab by rolling her shoulder, parried the cross with her left forearm, a short, sharp deflection that knocked his fist off course by 2 inches. And when the spinning back kick came, she sidestepped it so cleanly that Tyler's momentum carried him past her. He stumbled, caught his balance, turned around. Ursula was standing in the same spot, hadn't moved, hands still down. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Someone in the back row said, "Wait, what?" Tyler charged. No technique this time, just speed and aggression. A flurry of punches. Jab, jab, hook, uppercut, overhand right. 5 strikes in under 3 seconds. Every single one aimed at her head. Ursula moved like smoke. Head slip, roll under the hook. Lean back from the uppercut, just far enough that his fist passed an inch from her chin. And the overhand right, she caught it. In her palm, mid-air, wrapped her fingers around his fist, and held it there. For 1 second they stood like that, his fist in her hand, his arm fully extended. Her eyes locked on his. She wasn't breathing hard. She wasn't sweating. Her pulse, if you could have measured it, was probably lower than anyone else's in the room. Then she let go, pushed his hand back toward him, gently, like she was returning something he'd dropped. Tyler staggered backward, not from force, from shock. The gym was dead silent now. Not quiet. Silent. The kind of silence that happens when reality breaks in front of 100 people and none of them know what to do with it. A parent in the 3rd row grabbed her husband's arm. A student lowered his phone without realizing he'd stopped recording. Mrs. Wilson had one hand over her mouth. Tyler's chest heaved. He'd thrown 15 strikes, maybe 20. Not one had landed clean, not one. And she hadn't thrown a single punch back. She was reading him, cataloging every pattern, every habit, every tell. The way he dropped his right hand after a jab, the way he loaded his hips before a kick, the way his eyes flicked left before he threw the overhand. She knew everything about Tyler Grant's fighting style, and Tyler Grant knew nothing about hers. He backed up to the center of the mat, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. The arrogance was gone. The smile was gone. What replaced it was something Tyler Grant had never felt inside a ring before. Doubt. Nathan Cross stood up from his chair, slowly. His phone was still in his hand, the archived photo of the ghost of Gratiot still glowing on the screen. He looked at the woman on the mat. He looked at the photo. He looked at the woman again. "Oh my God," he whispered. Gregory Palmer turned to him. "What?" Nathan didn't answer. His eyes were locked on Ursula. On the mat, Tyler reset his stance. Tighter this time. Guard higher. No more flash. No more showmanship. For the first time all night, he looked like a man who understood he was in a real fight. Ursula tilted her head. Barely, just a fraction. And for the first time all night, she raised her hands. Ursula moved first. Not fast, not flashy. Just a half step forward. A small shift of weight from her back foot to her front foot that closed the distance between them by 18 inches. Tyler saw it, adjusted, threw a quick jab to keep her at range. Ursula parried it with her right hand and hit him with a jab of her own. It wasn't hard. It wasn't meant to be. It was a range finder. A tap on the chin that said, "I'm here now, and I can touch you whenever I want." Tyler's head snapped back. Not from the impact, from the surprise. Nobody had touched his face in a ring in 3 years. He swung a wild hook. Ursula ducked under it, stepped to his left, and planted a straight right to his liver. Short, sharp, surgical, like a key turning in a lock. Tyler folded. Not all the way, just enough. His guard dropped for half a second. His knees bent, his mouth open, and Ursula waited. She could have followed up. She could have ended it right there. A hook to the temple while his hands were down would have put him on the floor. She didn't. She stepped back, reset her stance, hands up, chin tucked, waiting. The message was clear. Get up. Try again. I'll be right here. Tyler straightened. His face had changed. The showman was gone. The Instagram fighter was gone. What was left was a man running on adrenaline and pride, and the absolute terror of being humiliated in front of the one person he was trying to impress. He charged. Everything he had. A 3-strike combination: jab, cross, lead hook, followed by a taekwondo switch kick aimed at her ribs. Fast. Technically perfect. If this were a tournament, judges would have scored it a 10. This wasn't a tournament. Ursula slipped the jab, rolled under the cross, let the lead hook whistle past her chin by an inch, and when the switch kick came, she checked it, turned her shin into it, bone on bone. The impact echoed through the gym like someone slamming a car door. Tyler winced. His leg buckled for a fraction of a second. That fraction was all Ursula needed. She stepped inside his range, so close she could feel his breath on her face. Left hook to the body, right uppercut that split his guard. Left hook again, this time upstairs, landing flush on his jaw. 3 strikes in less than 2 seconds. Tyler's mouthguard flew out. It bounced twice on the canvas and landed at the feet of a student in the front row. The student stared at it like it was a grenade. Tyler stumbled backward. His legs were there, but the coordination was gone. His hands dropped to his sides. His eyes went glassy. Not unconscious, but somewhere between here and gone. Ursula followed. Calm, measured. No emotion on her face. She threw a teep, a push kick to the chest that sent Tyler backpedaling into the cage wall. His back hit the chain link. His arms spread out on either side, tangled in the mesh. And then she stopped. She stood 3 feet in front of him, hands up, eyes locked on his. She wasn't even breathing hard. The only sound in the gym was Tyler's ragged gasping and the low hum of the ventilation system. Ursula pulled her right elbow back, loaded a cross that could have gone through a brick wall, held it there, cocked, ready. Her fist trembled, not from weakness, but from control. She held it for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Then she dropped her hand, stepped back, and turned away. The message wasn't just clear, it was devastating. I could have ended you. I chose not to. And that's worse. The gym exploded, not with cheers, with noise. Raw, unprocessed, chaotic noise. People screaming, people standing, people grabbing each other's arms and saying, "Did you see that?" over and over. A mother covered her son's eyes, not because of violence, but because she didn't want him to see a grown man broken. Tyler slid down the cage wall. His legs gave out and he sat on the canvas, chest heaving, staring at the floor. His perfect hair was matted with sweat. His rash guard was twisted. His bottom lip was split and bleeding onto his chin. He didn't look up. He couldn't. Nathan Cross was already moving. He walked past the crowd, past the folding chairs, past Gregory Palmer's stunned face. He stopped at the edge of the mat. Ursula Brooks. She turned. Surprised anyone here knew her name. Nathan held up his phone. The archived photo glowed on the screen. A young black woman in a chalk circle, fists raised, fire in her eyes. "You're the ghost of Gratiot, aren't you?" The gym went silent again, a different kind of silence. The silence of 100 people realizing they've been in the presence of something they completely failed to see. Ursula looked at the photo, her jaw tightened. For a moment, she said nothing. "I was." Nathan shook his head slowly. 34-0, 22 knockouts. You disappeared 5 years ago. Everyone thought you were dead. Not dead, just done. The whispers started like water through a crack, students pulling up their phones, searching the name, finding the articles, finding the grainy fight videos from basement circuits and warehouse shows, watching the ghost of Gratiot dismantle opponent after opponent with the same calm, surgical precision they had just witnessed. A student turned his screen to the kid next to him. "Bro, she's real. She's actually real." Mrs. Wilson was crying, quietly, one hand still over her mouth, the other gripping the reception desk. She had watched this woman scrub toilets for 3 years. Tyler Grant sat on the mat, alone. Nobody came to help him up. Nobody said a word to him. His phone, the one he used to film TikToks and flexes and highlight reels, buzzed in his gym bag. Someone had already posted the video. In 6 hours, it would have 14 million views. And Tyler Grant would delete every social media account he ever owned. The gym didn't empty right away. People stayed, not because they were told to, but because nobody could move. Students stood in clusters, phones between them, scrolling through articles and fight footage they had never known existed. They read the names of the women Ursula had beaten, former Golden Gloves finalists, Division I wrestlers, a woman who went on to fight in the UFC 2 years after losing to the ghost in a warehouse in Dearborn. They looked at Ursula, still standing barefoot on the canvas, and couldn't reconcile the woman they saw with the woman they thought they'd known for 3 years. "She mopped our floors," a student said, not to anyone in particular, just out loud, like he needed to hear the absurdity of it spoken. Mrs. Wilson reached Ursula first, pushed through the crowd, grabbed her by the shoulders, and hugged her. Hard. Long. The kind of hug that says, "I always knew there was more to you, even when I didn't know what." "Why didn't you ever say anything?" Mrs. Wilson whispered. Ursula's voice was quiet. "Because it wasn't about them knowing." Nathan Cross approached after the crowd thinned. He waited until Mrs. Wilson let go. Then he spoke, not like a scout pitching a deal, but like a man who understood he was standing in front of something rare. "I'm not here to offer you a fight contract. You don't need one. You never did." Ursula looked at him, waited. "I run a development program. Young fighters, women mostly, from backgrounds where nobody gives them a shot. They need coaches who've been where they've been, who've fought from the bottom, who know what it feels like to be invisible and still keep going." He paused. "They need you." Ursula was quiet for a long time. She looked down at her hands, the same scarred knuckles, the same white lines crossing each other like maps of battles fought in basements and parking lots, and chalk circles nobody remembered. She thought about Raymond, about his church basement gym on Gratiot Avenue, about the heavy bag that swung on a rusty chain, about the way he wrapped her hands every single night and said the same thing. "Promise me you'll pass it on. That's the real fight." She had never kept that promise. She had run. From Detroit, from the ring, from herself. She had buried the ghost under 3 years of bleach and mop water and silence. But ghosts don't stay buried. "When do I start?" she said. Nathan smiled. "Whenever you're ready." The next morning was a Saturday. The gym was empty at 6 a.m., as always, But this time Ursula didn't come through the side door with a mop bucket. She came through the front. Gregory Palmer was waiting in the lobby. He had a box in his hands. Inside it was a coaching tracksuit, black with the Summit Edge logo on the chest. He handed it to her without a word. Then he pointed to the far wall of the training room, where a maintenance crew was already at work. They were hanging a plaque. The Raymond Ellis Training Room. Ursula held the box, stared at the plaque, read the name 3 times. Her lips moved, but nothing came out. She cried. For the first time in 3 years. Standing in the lobby of the gym, she had scrubbed on her hands and knees for 1,000 mornings, holding a tracksuit she never asked for, looking at a name she thought the world had forgotten. Nobody told her to stop. Nobody looked away. Mrs. Wilson brought her a cup of coffee and stood next to her in silence until the tears ran out. That afternoon, Tyler Grant walked through the front door. No BMW in the parking lot. He'd taken the bus. No designer gym bag. Just a plain backpack, a bottle of water, and a face that had aged 10 years overnight. He found Ursula in the training room. She was adjusting the height of a heavy bag. "I'm sorry." He didn't explain what for. They both knew. Ursula looked at him for a long time, the same way she had looked at him on the mat, calm, still, reading everything. "Everybody's got something to learn," she said. "Even you." Tyler nodded, dropped his bag, stepped onto the mat, not as a teacher, as a student. He started with the basics. 6 months later, Summit Edge Academy looked different. Not the building. The building was the same. Same fluorescent lights, same trophy cases, same cage in the center of the main floor. But the energy inside it had changed. The arrogance was gone. The hierarchy was gone. What replaced it was something quieter, something harder to name. Respect. The Raymond Ellis Training Room plaque hung on the far wall, polished every morning. Not by a janitor, by Ursula. She wore the coaching tracksuit now. Black, clean. Summit Edge logo on the chest. Her hair was pulled back the same way it had always been, but the bandana was gone. The rubber gloves were gone. The mop bucket was gone. Coach Brooks. That was what the students called her. Some of them had been there that night. Some of them had laughed. None of them laughed anymore. Ursula trained a group of 12 young women. Diverse, hungry, overlooked. Girls from neighborhoods where nobody expected them to amount to anything. Girls who had been told, by teachers, by coaches, by the world, that they weren't built for this. Ursula never told them they were wrong. She just showed them. She talked the way Raymond had taught her. Patient, precise, no shortcuts, no flash. You don't fight angry. You fight quiet. Let them come to you. Let them make mistakes. Then make them pay. The girls absorbed it like water into dry soil. 3 of them were being scouted by Nathan Cross's development program. 2 had already won their first amateur bouts. One, a 17-year-old from East Atlanta named Grace, had knocked out her opponent in 45 seconds. When the interviewer asked her who trained her, Grace said 2 words: the ghost. Tyler Grant trained at Summit Edge 3 days a week. He came in through the front door. He bowed to Coach Brooks when he entered the training room. He worked the heavy bag, ran drills, and sparred with the students, not as their superior, but as their partner. He never talked about that night. He didn't need to. 14 million people had already seen it. His Instagram was gone. His TikTok was gone. His highlight reels were gone. What replaced them was something harder to build and impossible to fake. Humility. On a Tuesday evening, after the last class, Ursula stood alone in the Raymond Ellis training room. The lights were low. The gym was quiet, same as it had been 1,000 mornings before. But this time, she wasn't cleaning. She wrapped her hands. Slowly. Thumb loop. 3 passes across the knuckles. Tight between each finger. Wrist lock. The same way Raymond had taught her 20 years ago. She faced the heavy bag, settled into her stance. Southpaw. Chin tucked. Hands up. And she smiled. Not for the cameras, not for the crowd, not for anyone watching. For Raymond. For the promise she had finally kept. The ghost of Gratchett was no longer invisible, and she was never going back.